Lawwin Media Network.
Bringing to you the most relevant content across all platforms.
Business, legal, politics, health, lifestyle, and entertainment.
Your source for all the news and updates in the greater Houston community from Texas and all over the world.
Get informed and empowered with Lawwin Media Network.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Carly D., a doctorally prepared registered nurse, educator, professional development specialist, mentor, and victims advocate and thriver. The show is produced by Lawwin Media Network, and you can catch us live every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, either through our YouTube live channel, Facebook Live, Twitch TV, and on all podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and Google. So tonight's episode is an episode that I have been waiting for. We're going to be joined tonight by the incredible Dr. Hart, who is a board-certified oncologist who not only is treating cancer, but she's also changing how we understand it. Whether you or a loved one has faced a cancer diagnosis, or you're just curious about what it's really like behind the scenes of cancer care, tonight's conversation is for you. So I would love for you all to welcome to the show, Dr. Hart.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. It is truly an honor to have you on the show. I absolutely love what you're doing. I feel that oncologists are truly doing God's work in this world.
Thank you. Thanks for your invitation. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So for our audience members at home, Dr. Hart, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into oncology.
I'm from Iran originally. I finished medical school in 1987. And as I was doing my different rotations, as you know, in medical school or nursing, I was falling in love with every one of them. In Iran, we can practice as a family practitioner without doing a residency right off the medical school. So I did 7 years of, I was a family practitioner. And I got really bored. I said, if I see one more sore throat, I'm going to jump off the bridge. And I was looking for something challenging that keeps me on my toes, and oncology was it. So that is how I decided. But because I had some political activity in Iran, the government did not allow me to do my residency in Iran. So in 1994, I came to the US. And that is when I did my residency, and I have been a practicing radiation oncologist since 2000, 25 years.
Wow, amazing, amazing. And what are some of the organizations or facilities that you have worked at and that you're affiliated with?
Gosh, within the past 25 years, there's a long list. But currently, I work in a cancer center in Huntsville. But I do also other modalities that are more kind of energy work. So I work part-time right now. And I'm interested to share how I got there.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Working in cancer care can be quite challenging. Mm-hmm. Tell us, what keeps you going? What keeps you inspired?
It is a double-edged sword. You get a lot of job satisfaction when you actually save somebody's life, right? How many people can say that my job includes saving people's life? But on the other hand, there are some people that you can't help. And that could be very emotionally challenging. I actually got burned out in 2012, and I had to leave clinic for a few years before I could get back. But
Wow.
yeah, helping people, as you know, as a nurse, is always very rewarding.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Do you have a mentor in the field, someone that you go to when you need advice or help?
In oncology, in
Yes.
general, yeah,
Yes.
my colleagues, thankfully, we have associations, national and international associations, that you can reach out with any question, or even when you get burnt out, because physicians do burn out quite often.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Wonderful. And so, with your personal experience, what is your motivation for every day? Do you have some type of way you start your day? What gets you going? Because going into that every day must be heavy. What way do
Mhm.
you lift the burden before you go into the day?
Yeah, it used to be meditation. I was a meditator for 30 years. Meditation was extremely helpful. But also, I love dancing like you do. Sometimes, I tell my close people, like, when you see me dancing, something wrong is going on. That's how I get it out of my body and my system. And most recently, in the past 5 years, since I started doing other energy work, part time, I do that. And that is really rejuvenating for me and energizing.
Yes, I have to agree. Earlier this year, I took up dancing with Diva Dance, and it's been so wonderful for me, for mentally and my body. I do so much mental work, so much intellectual work. So
Mhm.
I needed a way to get out of my head and into my
Absolutely.
body.
Yes, absolutely. That's very crucial.
Yes, and it's such a stress relief, and I do feel energized and
Mhm.
happier once I finish dancing.
Yes, yes. As you know, our childhood traumas are stored in our bodies, and any trauma,
Yes.
adulthood traumas too. And if you just go to therapy or something, just sitting, not moving, you can't really release those traumas. So for me, dancing has always been a way of releasing trauma.
Awesome. That is so beautiful. I love that. And so, do you have any personal experiences dealing with cancer? Any family, friends, or yourself personally?
I haven't gotten cancer, but I have a very strong family history of breast and ovarian cancer. I have
Mm.
my own sister is a thriver of cancer. I like that word. I don't want to say survivor. As a thriver
Yes.
of breast cancer. Unfortunately, I lost two cousins to breast cancer. I lost a cousin to ovarian cancer. So yes, so I personally have to be on, on it with my mammogram and MRI and everything to detect it early if that's going to happen.
That's good. That's really great to hear. And I love that you mentioned about early detection. Can
Mhm.
you tell our audience what are some ways that they can, or some things they can do to help with early detection and to prevent cancer?
So not every cancer has a screening. Some of them do. Most common ones do. So prostate cancer is a
Mhm.
blood test, PSA, that gentlemen start
Mhm.
as of age 50 and do it once a year. Colorectal is a colonoscopy that you do as of age 50. And depending on whether they found polyps in your colon or not, you may have to do it every 3 or every 5 years. So 3 to 5 years.
Mm.
For breast cancer, as you know, our annual mammograms. If somebody has a very high risk of breast cancer, they started earlier, and maybe on top of mammograms, they also need MRIs. I do that. I have imaging twice a year. I get MRI, mammogram. And for gentlemen and people who have history of colorectal cancer, also PSA and colonoscopy should start earlier.
Very good. Very good. And can you tell our audience what are the two most common forms of cancer that we see in women and then in men?
Breast and prostate. That is after skin cancer. Skin cancer is the most prevalent, but depending on what type of skin cancer, most of them are very well treatable. So even though they have to be taken seriously, they are not so discussed or talked about because breast and prostate are after that. Yes.
Wow, interesting. I didn't know skin cancer was so prevalent.
Yes.
Is it dependent on region or how much sun you get? What are the factors behind that?
Sun is the most common reason, and depends on area, because if you live in areas that the altitude is higher, obviously you're closer to the sun. So yes, and then also in any other area, how much sun you get contributes to that, whether you wear sunscreens or protect yourself with a hat or something. Yes.
Yes. And so what are some ways people can prevent the skin cancer? As you mentioned, I know you said a hat, sunscreen. What else can people do?
Don't do tanning beds. You and I don't need it, thank God. We are tan already.
Yes,
but a lot of people do it. Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
Yeah, you're beautiful just as you are. You don't need to tan yourself.
Thank you for that. And so one of the common myths is that I've heard is that people of color don't get skin cancer. Can you tell us whether that's true or not?
It's true that when the darker our skin is, the more melanin we have, and melanin shields, the penetration of light. But it doesn't mean people don't get skin cancer. Perhaps the statistics are a little bit lower. And you have to also realize that we have multiple types of skin cancer. We have basal cell, we have squamous cell, we have melanoma, we have Merkel cell. So each one of these are different. Their etiologies are different. For basal cell, squamous cell, melanoma, sun definitely plays a role. Merkel cell does not. So yeah, one can get kind of skin cancer that has nothing to do with sun.
Wow. And this is always a question that has been very debatable for years. Should people of color wear sunscreen when going to the beach or being outside in the sun?
Definitely, yes. So you might need a lower SPF, but you do need it. And not only everybody should apply, say, on a beach or wherever you are, that you're mountain climbing, wherever you're really exposed to sun, you have to renew it every 2 hours. So it's not like you put it at 6 a.m. in the morning and you're on the beach until 8 p.m. and you think you have been protected. You have to reapply.
That's been one of those things I've always been confused about is the SPF. I never quite understood that.
Well, it's really the number suggests how much of filtration is going to happen. So the higher the SPF, the higher the filtration.
Oh, wow.
The stronger it is. Yeah.
The stronger it is. And so you recommend at least every 2 hours to reapply.
If you're in a persistently exposed to sun, yes. Like in the morning, if you, with your makeup, you put some sunscreen and then you go out, you don't need to reapply it. But if you're on the beach or a mountain, somewhere that really it's, or areas like Houston, oh my God, there's so much sun, right? So
yes, too much. Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is such great advice. We're getting such great knowledge today. And so we're going to continue to deep dive into oncology and cancer care with Dr. Hart after our first break of the evening. So everybody stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Dr. Hart.
In a world filled with fleeting moments, there's beauty waiting to be captured. My name is Christian, and I specialize in immortalizing your most precious memories. From elegant weddings to vibrant events and timeless portraits, I'm here to make every moment unforgettable. Let me tell your story through the lens. Contact me today and let's create magic together.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Pink Table Talk. Tonight, we're talking about cancer and how people are fighting through this challenging diagnosis. So, right now, we have a comment from our audience member, Mimi DeVera. She said, "It's amazing you chose to leave your country and probably also your family to pursue your passion in learning and saving people's lives."
Thank
That
you.
is truly wonderful.
Thank you. That's a beautiful comment. As you might know, the political situation in Iran is really challenging, and they didn't allow me to pursue my education. And I had to leave my entire family behind and my country. And now with the war between Israel and Iran, it's really challenging because I constantly worry about my family members.
Yes, you're truly a brave woman, and your story is definitely inspiring to many.
Thank you.
Leaving and behind everything to pursue your passion it's definitely got to be scary. What was that journey like?
I started my residency after a lot of, interrogations and blindfolding. That's a story for another podcast. They finally allowed me to start residency. But then, we are talking about 31 years ago, the success rate in Iran was so poor because we had no technology. And I was like so getting depressed. My mother used to say, "Wasn't there any other specialty other than oncology? Why have you chosen oncology?" And when I read that the success rate in United States, this is 31 years ago, was 75%, I said, I gotta go. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's talk about it. For people listening at home who might be overwhelmed by cancer diagnosis, can you break it down for us? What happens when someone first gets that you have cancer news? What's that like?
I have not experienced it, and I tell my patients all the time, I would never be able to even imagine it because until you get it, you don't know. But watching people, including my own sister and my family members, it's frightening, and it really shouldn't be. And I tell you why. If you go to a doctor and they'll tell you you have hypertension or you have diabetes, there's no cure for those. You have to take a medication for the rest of your life. There are many cancers that there is cure for them, especially if you get diagnosed early. So I would be more worried if somebody told me I have diabetes than I have cancer.
Yes, that is so true. And working in healthcare all these years, I have seen such devastating comorbidities and complications from diabetes.
Yes.
It truly is just as devastating, I would feel. Yes.
Absolutely. So, as you know, metabolic syndrome, which includes diabetes and obesity, things like that, they are contributing factors to diagnosis of cancer. So, not only by themselves, they are not curable, but also they can contribute and make somebody to get cancer as well.
Yes, absolutely. And so walk us through some of those terms: chemo, radiation, immunotherapy. Can you briefly describe what those treatments are for cancer?
Yes. So every cancer, when we say cancer, we are talking about apples and oranges. Every cancer is different. So there's no one treatment for all of cancers. And then depending on the stage, when the cancer was diagnosed, treatment is very different. So there are some cancers that require radiation, some cancers that require chemotherapy, some cancers require immunotherapy, some cancers require surgery, and sometimes in really advanced cases, you might need all of them in a combination.
Wow.
And that's really the job of the oncologist to, depending on type of cancer and stage, determine what kind of treatment they need. But to make it simple, surgery basically removes the tumor if it's possible. Radiation is also a very localized treatment, similar to surgery, meaning that we target the tumor with radiation. It doesn't go anywhere else. But chemotherapy and immunotherapy, they are called systemic therapy, because once it's injected in your vein, it goes everywhere, and it affects good and bad cells.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. And how are the treatment plans decided, and for how long are the most treatments?
Right. So if somebody, say, let's start with breast cancer. If somebody had stage 1 breast cancer, like really early, they usually have surgery. After that, they get radiation. Depending if their tumor responds to hormones, they may get hormonal therapy. They don't need chemotherapy. They don't need immunotherapy. They're done in a few months, right? But if somebody had the same cancer in stage 4, they perhaps for the rest of their lives, they are on some kind of treatment. And these treatments may change over the years. And there may be periods of what we call honeymoon period, that they're off everything. But they're watched very closely to detect any early recurrence and begin resume treatment, basically. So it depends on the cancer and depends on the stage.
Wow, very interesting. And what are the current success rates of these treatments, depending on the cancer?
So breast cancer, skin cancer, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, if they're detected early, they have very good success rate, curable. But cancers such as pancreatic cancer, gastric cancer, which is stomach, we have less of success in treating them, especially if they are detected late. And some of cancers have a tendency to show up late, like the person doesn't have any symptom. Now, because we have a screening for prostate and we have screening for colorectal and breast, even if they don't have symptom, we can detect it based on the test we are doing. But we don't have any screening for pancreatic cancer. We don't have any screening for lung cancer. And those are the ones that are usually detected late.
Wow. Wow. That's so interesting. And why don't we have screenings for those types of cancer? Do we not have technology yet, or what do you think it is?
Yeah, we haven't discovered them yet. You might have heard the term tumor marker, which is like these specific proteins that we detect in a blood test, such as PSA. Like the beauty of PSA and prostate cancer is that no other organ in your body is creating PSA.
Yeah.
The only organ is prostate. So that is very specific, right?
Yes.
So when the PSA is up, you're not looking in the lung or pancreas. You know where it's coming from, right?
Yes.
But there are tumor markers, plenty of them, that they're not very specific to the origin or the where the primary cancer is. They give you some idea something is wrong, but then you have to really investigate. So not every primary cancer has a specific tumor marker, and that's the problem.
Wow, interesting. Wow, I never knew that. That's so interesting. And talk to us about, there's people out there who refuse any type of treatment and they just change their diet and their lifestyle. Talk to us about that.
I am not against Western medicine at all, but personally believe that diet anything that we put in our body, including food, the air we breathe, the energy we receive from other people, areas. These days, EMF is really, really bad, and Western medicine doesn't talk about it. So it has to be a holistic approach. And my holistic approach also includes treating childhood traumas. There are a ton of data showing that untreated, unhealed childhood trauma has direct relationship with all kind of serious diseases, whether it's MS or Parkinson's or cancer, doesn't matter. So Western medicine is good in treating the acute phase. But once you're done with, say, surgery and radiation, now you should ask yourself, why did I get that? And usually Western medicine does not address that. It just tells you come back when the cancer comes back. And that's not good enough. So then you need somebody who looks holistically and say, okay, let's look at your diet. Let's look at your childhood trauma. Let's look at your genetics, all of that. And don't wait for the cancer to come back. Let's be proactive and do something about it.
Wow, amazing, amazing. You know, I was a teenager when I heard that people with unhealed trauma, like you said, and resentment and anger built up in their body, that they develop these diseases and these disorders. So I heard that many years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see that we now do have scientific data to back that up.
Scientific data has been there since 1940s. But pharmaceutical companies don't want it to be taught in medical school. I never heard the word trauma in medical school. Even nutrition is not taught in medical school. We are supposed to just write prescriptions. And anything I have learned about nutrition and childhood trauma, I have learned it on my own. But data has been there. Data has been there since 1940s. There is even characteristics. If I suggest to your audience to read a couple of books by Dr. Gabor Mate, one is called When the Body Says No, and the other one is The Myth of Normal. And he lists every single study since 1940s that has shown a direct link between trauma and these diseases.
Wow, amazing, amazing. You know, last year, the World Health Organization actually now listed trauma as being the origin for a lot of mental health disorders. And I thought that was so fascinating because I had long held belief that the trauma we experience in our life does show up in ways. It does somaticize, you know, it shows up in our body, whether it's a headache or a neck ache or chest pain, you know, or depression and anxiety.
Yes.
I've always believed trauma is so closely linked to all these issues.
So World Health Organization has been late to the party because decades ago, we had studies done called ACE studies, ACE, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And decades ago, they proved the link between childhood traumas, these adverse childhood experiences, and all kinds of diseases, in not only mental illness, but also diabetes and obesity and addiction. I mean, it has been there for decades. And now, all of a sudden, well, it's good that they're mentioning it, but they're kind of late.
Yes, because I've always been a believer of that. And that's why I truly advocate and encourage people to go to therapy. You know, I really feel people need to get it out, you know, open up and talk about what's troubling them, what did they experience, what they went through. And like you said, a holistic approach. I believe anybody with a cancer diagnosis should not only change their diet and lifestyle and do the treatments, but I believe they should see a therapist as well to get to the root cause. Yes.
And you know, when somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, you not only perhaps have had a bunch of childhood traumas, but also you get traumatized by the diagnosis. Going through these treatments is not easy. It's very traumatizing. I personally suffered from treatment-resistant depression, insomnia, and PTSD because of my childhood traumas. And therapy kept me alive, but therapy was not the one that healed my traumas. And that is why I have certification in a very amazing modality called Make Anything Possible, or MAP, which gets, it deals with your subconscious mind. And only I had 30 years of failed therapy, 6 sessions of MAP neutralized my childhood trauma. It's just magical. And I'm surprised nobody knows about it and nobody talks.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And I'm so excited to hear more about that. And so we'll definitely dive into it after our break. So everybody stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Dr. Hart.
Thank you.
Join us for a captivating new series where Lon sits down with the trailblazers of the music and entertainment world. Discover the stories behind the faces and voices that shape our culture and community.
We will bring you exclusive interviews with industry legends and rising stars. Behind the scenes insights and get a peek into the creative processes and personal journeys. Artists and performers and their upcoming shows and events.
Stay tuned for more updates and sneak peeks. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel.
Welcome back, everybody, to Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Carly D. The show is produced by Lawin Media Network, and you can catch us live every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Central at 8 o'clock Eastern. We are on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitch TV, and all podcast platforms. Tonight, we are joined by the remarkable oncologist, Dr. Hart.
Yeah.
So before we went to break, she was talking to us about MAP. Oh, well, we have a comment, so I'll read that before we dive in. So from Mima DeVera, she said, it's amazing how you brought up that therapy did not heal or cure you. And she said that she went to therapy for her depression for 6 years, but it never really helped her totally. Yes.
So the reason is that talk therapy, which is basically therapy, it's okay. I mean, it's good to talk about something, but it doesn't change the wiring of your brain. When you have childhood trauma or adulthood trauma, your neurons, they are wired a certain way. And unconsciously and physiologically, your behavior, your emotions, there's a pattern because of that wiring. Something like MAP rewires your brain literally. And it changes your life because it changes your emotions, it changes your behavior. I always say this is like a GPS, you know, how you have a destination and you miss an exit and GPS gives you a new direction. So with rewiring your brain, anything you have missed in your life, you have a second opportunity. It's called window of reconsolidation, they call it. And you literally can rewire your brain, which therapy does not do.
Yes. And so where can one find these types of treatment being done, the MAP?
MAP is done online. I am a provider of MAP, but there is a website called MAP Coaching Institute that one can go there and find all kind of coaches and even group treatments, because MAP can be done in groups as opposed to therapy, and it's always online. So even if your audience are not in Houston area, they can still have treatment by me or anybody else. It's usually done online.
Wow, wonderful. I had never heard of this, so this is very interesting. When was this developed? Is it still relatively new? Why don't we hear more about it?
Yes, the founder, the actual original founder, was a Canadian doctor. His name, he has passed, unfortunately, Dr. Flint. And he had written a book about it, and he was using it for his patients, but has never gotten any popularity. And then our own Houstonian Colette Stryker, who was a therapist and had seen firsthand that she couldn't treat a lot of things, right? She learned about it. She read his book and contacted him, and he trained her and her son, Valentine Stryker. He basically gave them the opportunity to expand it, use it however they want, and that's how it turned into MAP, Make Anything Possible.
Wow. Fantastic. I'm such a huge believer in different treatments, and I love that. So I'm going to definitely do more research on it.
Absolutely. You should invite Colette also. I'll send you her
Yes,
contact.
yes, definitely. I would love to have her on.
Yeah.
And so, in your line of work, you're working with humans, you're giving them this tough diagnosis. Tell us about a patient that touched your life. What is one patient experience that you remember?
Oh my God. I remember many, but this one I would never forget. I was in my early 40s, so was she. And we had young children. I had only one. She had more than one. And she had just moved from New York City to Houston when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. So from the get-go, I had a connection with her. Like in medical school, they teach you should not have any emotional attachment to your patient. And that's good in some ways, because the reason we don't treat our family members is that what we recommend is biased based on our emotional attachment to the person. So you want to have a little bit of distance. But I kind of felt this connection. And after she got her treatment, she had her surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, she was disease-free. So I saw her in November, and I was very happy for her. And we talked about our children and growing, And boom, by Christmas, she was admitted to the hospital with her liver filled with metastasis. I thought that, that's okay. She would get treated. But by New Year's Eve, she was gone. And I never allowed myself to grieve until I don't know, it was summer of that year. I was invited as a guest speaker for a huge luncheon called In the Pink of Health. And I said, what do you want me to talk about? And they said, we want you to talk about breast cancer, but give a uplifting, positive talk. So, okay, I can do that. So I create a presentation. What they didn't tell me was they were sitting me with her husband and her children at the same table. When I sat with these children, I lost it. And I was before me, her husband talked. And that just opened this grief that I had not really processed. So by the time I got there, I couldn't even open my mouth. I cried for 5 minutes straight, and this is supposed to be an uplifting talk, until I got a hold of me. But people came to me afterwards and they said, we are so glad this happened because we see the human side of a physician. And I told them, I said, we grieve. It's you maybe your doctor comes with a flat face and doesn't show any emotion, but we also grieve.
Yes. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, what a heart-wrenching story. Oh, that's often something that I've heard a lot in healthcare is about the bedside manner of physicians, how they can be so stoic and cold. I've had patients who I gone into their room after receiving their diagnosis and they're crying. And they said the doctor just came in and said, you have cancer, and walked out.
Yeah.
And, so in nursing, I've been there to hold their hand, to comfort them, to hug them. And so to me, I feel they should teach doctors to be empathetic.
Absolutely. And I failed that course because I was always holding my patients' hands, crying with them, praying with them. I mean, things that you're not supposed to do, but I just couldn't help it.
You're just a regular old rebel.
Yeah, I think it's important. We don't want to get overly emotional to the point
Yes.
of interference with what we offer. But I
Correct.
think it's so important that you have a human connection with your patient.
Yes, the humanity of it. And I love that, you know, and I've always appreciated my doctors who always showed me that compassion and that kindness.
Yes,
You know, it's wonderful.
absolutely.
It's wonderful. And so over the years, having dealt with all these diagnoses, seeing patients die, you know, seeing those who survived and thrived, how do you release that in your day to day? Do you do journaling? Do you do anything to release all of that?
For me, really has always been meditation, doing some kind of energy work that you need to cleanse all of those energies, even if it's a
Yes.
mantra or it's an affirmation or it's taking a shower, visualizing a light cleaning you. You have to do that. Self-care, getting a massage, exercising, dancing. You have to take care of yourself. Just like this is almost a cliche in the airplane, you put your oxygen first before you put oxygen on the mouth of the next one. So self-care is very important, and unfortunately that is not taught in medical schools. I don't know about nursing
Yes.
schools, but self-taught.
No.
They think we are machines. I remember during my
Yes.
internship and residency, like 36 hours of work straight without sleeping. I mean, that's just inhumane.
Yeah, that's impossible. Oh my goodness. Yes. And so you talk about the long hours, you talk about dealing with those tough situations. How do you guys prevent burnout in your field?
Unfortunately, there's no discussion about that in medical schools, and many physicians have burnout. Do you know that the rate of suicide in physicians is higher than veterans?
Wow. Wow.
Yes. And you saw it during COVID, how many
Yes.
emergency doctors and nurses, healthcare
Yes.
professionals just killed themselves right and left. That was, really the people saw it. But outside of a pandemic, people don't see it, but it's happening all the time. So after I experienced burnt out in 2012, I learned that, oh my God, this is so serious. And I
Yes.
came out of clinic. I gave myself time to recover, just self-care, and do more meditation, more energy work until I gradually got back, and initially part-time, just eased into clinic again. So it's really important. And when we say trauma, it's not only traumas of patients, it's also traumas of the doctors.
It's so true.
They need treatment as well. Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. And you know, it's interesting because it was during COVID where they came out with the diagnosis of caregiver. I think it was caregiver burnout, secondary trauma, which is not your own trauma, but it's witnessing the trauma of others, such as those getting those tough diagnoses like cancer. That we too experience the trauma just by being around it and seeing it every day.
Correct. And also, a lot of physicians are physicians because of their childhood trauma, because we have to choose a profession that makes us needed.
Wow.
Traumatized children feel unwanted. So becoming a physician is the quick way of being wanted all the time. No, it's serious. That's serious.
Wow.
Yes.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. And you know what? I have a feeling that's why nurses get into it too.
Oh, absolutely. And when I say doctor, and please forgive me, I mean healthcare professional. And nurses are the first line. We can't do anything without nurses. You are the gals and guys who are giving the care. We just write a prescription.
Well, it definitely takes teamwork, and having an excellent nurse and doctor on your side is definitely going to give the patients the best care that they deserve and that they need.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, we're going to go ahead and take our last break of the evening, but everybody stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Dr. Hart. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Pink Table Talk. Tonight, we're talking with oncologist Dr. Hart, a truly remarkable and slightly rebellious doctor, and she is out here changing lives and helping those who are dealing with the terrible, terrible disease of cancer. Tonight, we've been having such a meaningful and eye-opening conversation and learning so much. So, Dr. Hart, you're welcome. Tell us more about how do you treat cancer. Tell us about your business. Tell us what are you doing and how you're bringing innovation to cancer care.
So I am moving out of clinic and offer my second opinion or any kind of opinion online. You can see it on my website, and I offer advice on cancer prevention, second opinion, nutrition, lifestyle. I'm really big in education and prevention. I think it's really, really important. And also I offer modalities other than oncology, such as MAP, or Make Anything Possible, and CAP, which is Kundalini activation process. Those each need their own sessions to talk about. I also, again, emphasis on what kind of water you drink. I work with a company called Spiro that neutralizes EMF and dirty electricity. I just had them at my own house to filter everything. Those are really, really important. And unfortunately, your regular doctor doesn't talk about it. So I am kind of in between.
Fabulous, fabulous. Speaking of EMF and water, talk to us about environmental contributors to diseases, especially cancer. What's in our environment that we should be more cautious about or try to limit?
So there are plenty of chemicals in our air, in our food, in our water. Those are definitely carcinogens. So really getting education. Like the only water I drink is called Kangen water. This is a Japanese company that has created this machine that not only takes the acidity of water, which is really bad for you, away. It filters it. It alkalinizes, and also it acts like it really acts like a vitamin, because it's antioxidant. The waters, it gives you several types of water. So that's the only water I drink. And then when it comes to chemicals, obviously, I'm raw vegan. I don't eat anything cooked. I don't anything that is not organic. So I pay a lot of attention. I don't remember when was the last time I had a little bit of sugar. Sugar is toxin, carcinogenic, causing inflammation, has to be out of your diet. And
Really
also, yeah, most recently, I just brought Spiro company. Two of the technicians came and measured dirty electricity and EMF in my house, and they have put all these discs that they have that filters them. So these are really, really essential, not only for cancer, for any kind of health issues. And unfortunately, Western medicine calls it chemical hypersensitivity or anything they don't have any diagnosis for. So it's your immune system. Yeah, but what weakened my immune system? I need to address that.
Yes. Wow. So interesting. I started learning when I was a teenager. I was listening to this doctor. He was more of like a naturopath. And he spoke even then, this is over 20 years ago, about all the chemicals in the environment, even from how we cook our food.
Yes.
They had like the high temperatures,
Yes.
all those things. And so I do see that we are kind of moving towards a movement of changing those things, but we have such a long way to go.
Absolutely, yes. You know who owns food industry? Tobacco industry. No, this is
Wow.
real. So
Wow.
every trick they have used to make you addicted to tobacco, because in a cigarette there are 200 plus chemicals. You think you're using tobacco, it's tobacco plus 200 some plus chemicals, and that's how you get addicted and hooked. They are using the same chemicals in our food. And that is why food addiction is the number one cause of obesity in the USA.
Yes. And I have been thinking about that recently because I said, 40, 50 years ago, we didn't see people of this size.
Yes.
And now we're seeing, like people well over 400 pounds, really, really severely, morbidly obese. And I knew there had to be a connection to the food industry. It had to be.
It is the food. It's all the chemicals that they so scientifically designed to add to our food, so we get addicted to it.
Wow, interesting. We'll definitely have to save that for another conversation, because I can definitely deep dive into that.
Absolutely, yes, we need to do that.
Yes. So, Dr. Hart, what is some advice you can give to a patient who has just received a cancer diagnosis, or to a family member? How can they comfort their family member? What are some words of wisdom you can share with us?
I think a patient should be a member of their treatment team. They should not be old-fashioned, like waiting for the doctor to tell them what to do. However, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. So I suggest self-education, but you can ask your doctor or find reliable academic centers that you can get really good information from. And inform yourself, educate yourself. Family members always feel helpless, but you can help. As the patient is taking care of other stuff or treatment, you can do the research for them. They bring them information, and go to your doctor with education, with really good questions. And be a member of your healthcare team.
Yes, awesome. And what advice can you give to the young oncologists out there? What can you share with them?
God, please open your eyes to don't be limited to the box they have placed you at. Get education on nutrition. Get education about other modalities. Learn about trauma and what role it plays in the diagnosis of patients. And have a much better bedside manner. For God's sake, please examine your patients. I had vertigo at the beginning of this year. I went to 3 doctors. None of them touched me. None of them examined me. And they knew I'm a physician.
Yeah.
They rely on scans, and that's not
Yeah.
the way to go.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And last but certainly not least, since most of our audience members are women, what advice can you share with those who do want to follow their dreams and their passions and may have to leave family or their country behind just as you? What can you share with them?
Obviously, that's a very personal decision. As well, you know, it's a trade-off. I haven't seen my family, my big family, for 31 years now. So that's a huge price I have paid. So that becomes a very personal decision. But we women always put ourselves last, right? We're
Yes.
caregiver for our husband and our children and our parents and all of that. Please, please extend that love and care to yourself, and follow your dream, follow your joy, follow your passion. That is not only good for you, but also for anybody else you're taking care of.
Yes, absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much again, Dr. Hart. This has been an absolute honor. I'm so inspired by you and all of the wonderful things that you are doing. For those of you in the audience, if you would like to reach out to Dr. Hart, we have posted here her information. So definitely reach out to this lovely, lovely woman and physician.
Thank you so very much for the opportunity. It was an honor to be a part of your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you all. Well, that's it for tonight, everybody. Thank you again for watching the show. And please be sure to join us next week for more Pink Table Talk, Wednesdays at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern on Lawwood Media Network. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.